Are we live, Devin?
We are live.
All right. Thank you very much, Devin.
You're welcome.
All right, let's call to order this study session for the Board of Education. Rick, take it away.
Thanks, Kevin. And board members, we appreciate you coming on a little bit early this week. The study session is not something that we have used since I have been here 15 months now. But it is an effective tool sometimes when boards need to have more detailed information and conversation in a setting that is not as formal as the board agenda where Robert's Rule of Order are in place. A study session is really just more of a conversation and a question and answer opportunity for board members to ask of the superintendent. We have Kelly here because some of the things have financial implication. And can even toss around ideas about how to either tackle a particular subject or if it's a specific project, some of the details related. So tonight we have some things on our agenda that pertain to that. We've got the process and the role of the Building Futures Committee. Because that got paused and because now we have a couple of new board members, just wanted to go all through that process. And then we had a presentation to the Facilities Committee from the Energy Systems Group, and thought that we would give a little bit more detail about that. We'll also take some questions and answers on anything that's on the agenda that board members would like to have more discussion on. And then one of the action items tonight is to set a date for a board retreat. So we can, take some time during the work session to get out our calendars and try to agree on a date to do that. And then when it comes to the agenda item during the meeting, it's just a matter of approving that. So let's start with the process and role of the Building Futures Committee. TMP reached out over a week ago to set up a meeting to bring up to speed the newest board members. So Greg and Tony joined Suzanne on a Zoom meeting to go through that presentation. And honestly, I was surprised that the presentation was even more in depth than I had anticipated. Eduardo provided the whole slide presentation to me, and then I sent it to the full board. So it's also part of your packet for this week. But they started right at the very beginning, where because they have been our architect firm for many years, going back to the beginning of my career in Tecumseh. They reached out to us, and they may have done this previous to me starting in November of 19, but shortly after I got here, they contacted me about the amount of expiring bond debt that the district holds and the opportunity to recapture some of that bond debt, extend it further into the future, and address the current needs of the district in terms of its facilities. So because that would not be a tax increase to the electorate, I thought that it was interesting enough to listen to their proposal. And out of that came the idea that we would gather a community-based group of people, and between Terry and I and a few others in the administration, we reached out to people who were be completely new to the process, and we also included people who would be familiar with that sort of process because of things that they had done previously. Suzanne would be one of those people. She was on the board when things were done many years ago, and she was familiar with working with TMP and their grassroots efforts with community groups. So we recruited, we attempted to recruit over 30 people. I think we sent out about 32 or 34 invitations. We ended up with around 26 or 27 members on the committee. And we started working with TMP on the process. And TMP then hosted most of the meetings and talked with the group. And then I'll jump ahead to what we did most recently with Greg and Tony and Suzanne, and they kind of gave a summary of where we are right now. So before I go into any more details, Suzanne, Greg, is there anything more that I should talk about your feelings on the presentation and where we stand right now?
The presentation was fine.
We basically need to move forward with a plan of action from here, but we have to have a recommendation from them, and they want to present to the board, the full entire board. And we probably should think about re-upping some surveys and and look forward to hitting the next election.
Yeah.
But we need to hear from them what they want to do, I think.
Exactly.
But you're right. I was here, and they were in charge of everything. They did the whole middle school remodel and the design of the high school, and that whole project was theirs. And they were here from the beginning when the grassroots committee from back 20 years ago.
Yeah, I think that committee was the Yes for Kids.
Yeah.
Committee. This one is the Building Futures Committee, but really doing the same work. And the purpose of this most recent update was not really to make a presentation to the board members, but talk about how the process works and what the board's role in it is. Becky and Suzanne have been a part of all of the conversations that the Futures Committee has had, but they don't have any decision-making power when it comes to making votes or making decisions. And I want to make sure that the board understands that right now, this is not something that the school board or even the school district is engineering. We connected our architect group with community members to say a couple of things. First of all, here's the facilities study from 2014 that talked about the needs of our district, and updates to that facility study since 2014 and what the district might also need to consider. And then the second thing was, and by the way, you have a way to address those things without adding any more tax burden to the electorate of the district, because you can recapture the existing debt and then extend it further into the future. So the committee was given all that information, and over 4 different sessions have worked on trying to drill down really into what the needs are, how they could be met, what all of the different proposals would cost. And eventually we came to the conclusion last fall that given the circumstances in society with with COVID and the economy and how things were resting at that point. We had done a survey, and there was limited support in some areas of the program. There was strong support in other areas of the program based on the about 300 people who were surveyed within the district. But the decision at that time was to set it aside and not shoot for a May election in 2021, but to actually revive the process in the spring of 2021 and possibly shoot for something in November. So the community committee will be revived again. We've got date sets for late March and late April for the committee to kind of review the work and make sure that they're happy with what they're going to propose to the board. And they will come to the full board in a meeting in May and make a proposal and say, here's what the community committee came up with. This is what we think that the board should do. So we want to just provide as much information for board members going into that as possible, because the board will have to, within a couple of meetings, decide if that recommendation is what you would like to act on. And then the board will become actively involved in running a bond campaign connected with TMP and their campaign services and so on and so forth. So that's a general overview. I don't want to talk too specifically about what's in the Building Futures program proposal because it isn't complete yet. It's on pause, and they're going to, like I said, restart, have a couple of meetings, and they'll come to the board in May. But given all that information and what you've heard us discuss throughout the last year or so, are there any questions, suggestions, concerns, thoughts from board members to put on the table for discussion this evening?
I have a question, and it's what I asked at the meeting we were at, or the Zoom meeting we had with TMP, and that's this roll off of, and that's why I asked for the information from Kelly today, this roll off of the millages. Last week, I asked what the 7.166 mills was for, and it was said that was through 2030. But one of the sheets that Kelly sent us today said that looks like at the end of this year, the 7.17 falls to 4.14. Is that right? And then there must be a series of, I don't know what this is, what these millages were even for initially, but it looks like some of them fall off. Is that what they're talking about, falling off from TMP? And what are they paying off?
Exactly. And Kelly is listening in and probably will be able to address those questions more specifically. But yes, the bond debt that exists now in the district is a little over 7 mills. And between now and 2030, a little bit at a time, little pieces of that 7+ mills will disappear from the tax rolls, and that'll pay off portions of the different bonds. Some of them are still related to the building I'm sitting in, the high school, and some of them are related to projects that were taken at all of the elementaries and the current Compass building. At that time, it was the middle school. So the bonds were implemented at different times, and therefore they expire at different times. And each of those bonds is of a different amount of mills. Kelly, any more information that you can provide?
Absolutely. Kevin, would you give me the opportunity to share my screen, please?
Sure thing. Let me
Oh, I might be able to,
There.
can everyone see that?
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Okay.
Oh,
So the document you're looking at right now is what's called the L4029. Actually, it's a document the board approves every year in June. And this sets the tax mills for the next tax year. And if you look at this document, hold on, I gotta
Kelly?
move this.
Kelly,
Yes?
could I interject for
Yes.
just a sec, please? Could
Yes,
you
absolutely.
increase the magnification on your screen? I can see a couple of board members are struggling to see it. I
Oh,
think.
that'd be me.
Yeah,
All right.
and at least one
That-
superintendent.
All right, thank you.
See, that I'm nearsighted, so the smaller the better for me. Sorry about that. All right, so on this, like I said, this is the L4029. It's a document that the board approves every year in June. It sets the tax mills for the community for the year. And you can see, here, let me scroll back over. These are the existing property mills and taxes we're on. You know, the 18 mills is the regular property tax base. It's current, and then there's the heavy override, so it is up to 18 mills. There is the debt, and then there's also the pool millage. So you can see here is the 18 mills right here, these two lines. This is the debt, the current debt schedule for the 2021 year to meet all the debt obligations for the bonds. And here's our pool millage. You can see that this is when the mills expire for the other bonds, but you can see that the debt one has no expiration date. So when that bond was originally passed, it is put into an irrevocable trust that the community has to pay off this bond and issue enough mills until that bond is fully paid off, which is why there's no expiration date. But that said, this
Can
is
I
our
interrupt for a
current,
second?
absolutely.
How can it not have a date, an ending date? You don't just
So,
pay it definitely,
Yeah,
right?
it doesn't have an ending date for setting the mills. It does have an ending date of when the bonds are due. And I'm gonna get to that in a minute.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, when they mature, I should say, when the bonds mature.
Okay.
So here is this is the only current debt schedule we have right now. It's the 2015 refunding bond schedule. So in 2015, the district went out and refunded their existing bonds, and this is the schedule that was approved. You can see the overall amount that was bonded was $25,110,000. It went from 2015 when the refunding happened, and it would go on to then May 1st of 2030 when the last payment and the obligation would be the fees then at that point in time. So this is the schedule as is today without the refunding that's on the board agenda this evening. This document here is the what the existing debt schedule would be after this evening's refunding, assuming the board passes that. You can see it changes a little bit. So now, since we've refunded a portion of the bonds, the debt schedule goes out to 2029. It does not go out to 2030. So we've reduced the number of years we have to pay on the debt by 1 year. So it ends on 2029. And then you can see here would be the 2021 refunding bonds here. Here's again, the 2,225,000 that's up for vote tonight. And then we've actually reduced the overall cost of the bond, excuse me, the debt. Oops, I didn't mean to close that. Overall. And then on the last page, and my apologies, like I said, I accidentally closed it instead of scrolling down. So give me half a second here and I'll pull it back up. There it is. Okay. And then here, this last page I've provided for the board, you can see over here in this right-hand box, this is the estimated mills it would have taken to meet our debt obligation. So currently for the 2021 year, here's our mills that was on our L4029, the 7.17, they've rounded. And then here would be the mills for the subsequent years, all the way down to the 2030 on our existing schedule. And you can see the mills, next year it would go to 4.14 and then 3.95, et cetera. After the refunding this evening, you can see that the mills for this year stays the same. The mills for next year stays the same. And then again, it starts to reduce again to meet our debt obligation. And overall, by doing this refunding, not only do we knock a year off our debt schedule, but we also have net savings of a little over $500,000. So this $551,429 is our savings for refunding. And then, that's obviously savings to the taxpayers. Does that answer your question, Greg?
It does.
Dropping off fast now.
Right, and by performing, when you take action later this evening, this refunding, you can see that right now, it's stalling, but collecting more debt. And then after 21, 22, the rates drop more quickly and eventually get to zero more quickly. And that's primarily the reason for a little over $500,000 savings, which it does two things. It saves the district money. Over time, it's a responsible thing for the board to be doing. But it also gives the board and the district time to consider whether or not they want to extend the debt and create another project. When we decided to put off the Building Futures Committee from a May proposal to a November proposal, we wanted to buy a little time, and this was the smartest way to do it because it bought the district a full year to consider extending the bond, but it also saved the district money and a year worth of payment. So it was a win-win tactic, and our financial advisor was very wise to advise the board to make that move. So we bought a little time and we saved a little money. Are there any other questions or things that you're wondering about this whole idea of extending the bonds? If the Building Futures Committee came to us and said, hey, we could recapture this amount and we could do these projects. Do you feel like you're a little more up to speed after having this conversation, or is there more that you would like to know?
So there's only one bond then? Or is there
Yes.
multiple bonds?
Well, there's one bond refunding. Yeah, the 2015 debt schedule is what we currently have. After this evening's refunding, we would actually have two. So what's remaining of the 2015, and then here would be the 2021, and you can see that matures in 2022. So basically, it's a year.
I'm trying to go back to when these bonds originally happened. Did we refi them into this 2015 or? Because I thought there was
Well,
two separate bonds.
I backtracked a little bit. It appears in 2005, there was a original debt schedule that could have been when the original bond passed. I'm not sure exactly of the timing, but in 2005, something occurred. And then we were just paying down on that debt schedule. And then in 2015, the market conditions improved somewhat. And at that time, the district refunded their existing bond debt. And that time they got a 5% interest rate. This evening's interest rate is just a little over 0.5%. It's a 0.54 interest rate. It's phenomenal.
So we're paying 0.54 interest right now?
Correct. On the new refunding amount, on the 2,225,000, you can see that interest rate right there.
Okay.
Is the 0.54. You can see when we refunded in 2015, it's 5%.
You probably can't answer this, but in 2015, we went 5 years, 6 years with only paying interest, no principal. Anybody know why?
And that is pretty common. What you do is you buy time when you're refunding. In this case, you know, when they refunded these bonds, we were just paying principal, and then the bond maturity is due in 2030, which we, you know, just recently started paying principal on that in the 18-19 year.
Okay.
So Kelly,
Mm-hmm.
so the original bond, and I was involved in that. I got on the school board right after it passed. But
Okay.
high school and the middle school, that bond passed around 2005, you think?
That might have been the original one. It might have been a refunding at that point in time too. That's just as far back as I could find records.
What does a refunding mean? Were you
But I
vote?
mean, it's just that you're refunding either all or a portion of your bonds to obtain
Like-
a better rate.
Like what? Oh, okay. So you basically refinance,
Yeah,
not necessarily another vote for another bond.
correct. No,
Okay.
this is, yep. The district is still obligated to pay its debt. This is just refunding a portion of it to
Right.
save, again, money.
Right, like I bought my house and I refinanced several times when the interest rates went down.
Very
and then
similar.
paid me money.
Yes.
Okay, so we basically had one bond. We borrowed X amount of dollars and did the high school, and that's what we're paying. It's almost paid off now.
Well, at the
You
end
got
of 2030, it would be
25
paid off.
We owe 4.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're basically wanting to kind of borrow more
Right.
money. And the success rate of these kind of, you know, if for the needs of infrastructure and buildings and whatever the committee comes back, just from past experience and from what has been reported through this committee, the success rate in normal conditions, now with COVID and everything, like Rick said, it's been, you know, it's been a very tumultuous time. And people didn't seem comfortable, and who would? So we did put it on pause, which was a good thing, but it has a very high success rate of passing, like 92% success.
That's great.
Yeah, so if we, you know, if we need things and want to do things for our facilities and draw more people in, it's good to think about this.
And what if it doesn't pass?
And take the advice of the committee seriously, because they're the ones we kind of charged with the process, and we have to trust it.
Right. And Tim, I heard your question. I'll answer that in just a second. But the committee, and it's one of 3 or 4 times that I've worked mostly in Tecumseh, but usually one of these committees will consider 3 or 4, or in some cases maybe 5 different opportunities for a district to pursue. This committee actually explored 9 different scenarios, which was a lot of work, and they wanted to try to consider all of the different possible ways to create proposals. They looked at ways to capture all of the 7.17 mills to get the most amount of money, and also looked at ways to create some projects, but also return some tax relief to the community. So they spent a lot of time talking about different ways to approach it, and have a lot of information when they present. They'll be very thorough about why some of the decisions were made based on the needs of the district. But the question that you asked him was, what happens if a proposal is made to the community and it doesn't pass? The district will have the option then to maybe take information, look at the results and say, boy, it was really close, But we feel like this little piece of the project was the holdup, that there were maybe some community members who weren't happy with this one area. So we're going to remove that, and we're going to try again the next election cycle. And you can go for another try either in a May, an August, or a November election setting. And then you could repackage the information and try again to see if the community would be interested in doing something a little different than the original proposal. So the district will still have options. They'll still be able to make decisions. The debt is still going to be on the books, and recapturing it for no tax increase, like Suzanne mentioned. Nationally, when schools in states where this is the way that facility projects are financed, the success rate in one or two tries is about 92%. The districts end up getting something done for their community. So with all those factors, it just seems like it's a good thing for the district to be trying to solve a lot of our facility needs well into the future.
Right. Our elementary needs are really in trouble.
Yeah, the last time that the elementaries were addressed was about 20 years ago. 2003 was when they opened. 2001 was the bond project. And some of the things were settled then, but as the committee will present, things are different in education. Square footage needs are different, and the way that education is delivered is quite a lot different than it was 20 years ago. So because I was in the district, I was working as an administrator during that time. So it seems odd for me to saying those things are old, because that makes me old. But it just doesn't take long for things in your facilities to lose their value, and with educational changes over the time, districts have to constantly be evolving, and this is a smart way to do it without adding new tax debt to the community.
Did TMP present to the committee? I spoke to a few of them. They said it was just kind of glassed over, a sinking fund instead of a bond issue.
Sinking fund was presented, at least in terms of what it can provide. So I know that the committee was made aware of it. A sinking fund can be a little bit of money over up to 20 years that a district can levy, and up to 5 mils. It's usually done for maintenance purposes. It isn't normally done for the purpose of new construction or creating, large projects. So the committee had considered that, but in their proposal, when they talk about that, they'll give explanations on why they chose what they chose.
Okay, I know you guys are using the 2014 facility study, but we knew that study was completely flawed. So I'm a little concerned about that. We had a lot of open classrooms where they said we were full. So, and looking at the school breakdown, South Early Learning Center is 159. I'm getting this from the TMP slide. I don't know what it is right now, but it says 159 students. I know at one point out there at Sutton, I think it was close to 500. So
yeah, when they were a K4 elementary, they were jammed in pretty good. And with the preschool there now, they're still only 1 or 2 classrooms away from being capacity.
Okay.
No, and I'll have to say, I was at that meeting, and I've been at every meeting, and TMP has never like glossed over or, made minimal of something. They've always been very point blank about their description between a, you know, a bond, getting a bond like what we have done for the high school. And it's totally different than a mill or whatever you were talking about. Tim, it's
Well, I understand the
just
difference.
it's just for maintenance. You can't borrow the kind of money. So that's the difference, period.
Yep, yep, I understand that. So, but you can use it for construction as well and technology now too. So
Small projects. You can't borrow a large amount of money. You couldn't build a new school.
No, but you also don't pay any interest on it either.
No, you couldn't do 5 additions on 3 different schools.
Right. I'm not sure that's needed, but
Well, that's your opinion, but that's, you know, that's why we got the committee to get the public opinion from what they think our schools need. And
right.
Well, do we still have the formula, Rick, where the state tells you how big you can actually expand or how big you can build anyway based on your projected enrollment?
Yeah, that's still part of a bond project. The state does forecast your growth. And, you know, I know when we built this high school, it was built to hold 1,200 students, and we're currently under 800, so we're far under capacity. One of the things I know that the Futures Committee has looked at more so than square footage, they're looking at program and what we provide now. With the buildings that we have, we provide the program because those are the buildings we have and those are the facilities we have. So the cart's a little bit in front of the horse on that. We're building a program based on our facilities instead of building facilities based on our program. And I know that that's one of the things that the committee will talk a little bit about when they make that presentation, that trying to consolidate and reduce operational costs and bring groups together in facilities where services can be shared was an important aspect of the program that they're trying to design. And it's not based on, okay, here's what we have, so here's what we can do. It's more based on, here's what we would like to do, and here's what we need to be able to do it. And because it fits within the envelope of money that could be generated from these mills with either zero increase or actually a small decrease to the tax bill for citizens, that's where they made their decisions.
it falls right into what's best for kids in our community. And like Rick said, you take all the buildings into consideration. That's what they did. I mean, I was in, you know, every meeting we had. They talked about the kids, the spaces, you know, the smaller class sizes, the need for, you know, group places for big groups to gather, the busing issues, how do you separate, because they really aren't neighborhood schools anymore. And there's a lot of thought that went into this whole process. And I got to give the committee credit. I mean, it was all I could do to keep my mouth shut. Of course, everybody knows that, but but they went through it with each other and came up with great ideas, and they had, you know, they countered each other, and they basically they went down every avenue. Rick's right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not into manipulation or social engineering. It is not that process was not meddled with by school personnel. It was really something that the group organically came to their own conclusions
And
about.
it was logical. It was common sense. It was.
How did, I'm hearing you and I believe you, but who was coming up with the program ideas?
So there were multiple ideas proposed, and then we would go into groups.
By whom?
by TMP. We
Okay,
had 9 different, so through conversation, let's start with that. Through conversation with everyone, they came up with these 9 ideas that were community driven. And so they presented those 9 ideas to us in committees. And as a group of committee, we then looked it over and discussed what most aligned with the people in that committee's thoughts. And then when we came out, we all shared what those, I think it was 6 committees found. And in going through that and numbering these proposals, it came out that there was one clear winner. There was one proposal that everyone saw the value in.
But they kept
And-
narrowing them down.
Right.
Little by little.
Right.
We'd vote and then we'd have 3, or, we'd have 9, and then we'd have 4, and then we'd have 2.
But when it was all said and done, there was one that was a clear winner. And it is
Yeah.
exactly what Rick is saying. And it would allow for better opportunities for our students, our teachers. They'd have better availability to align that curriculum, collaborate. I mean, it was a clear winner. So that's where we were in doing the surveys. There was very clearly some things that the community were not happy with that were being added into that. That was extra stuff. And so that's, I think, what Rick's kind of getting at there is that, we went to the community and we said, what do you think of this? And the community was like, well, I like this, but not so much that. So now you take it back to the community. You look it over again, make sure everybody's still on board with it, take it back to the community and say, okay, last time you weren't really down with this, how do you feel about this? And go from there.
Yeah, the core of the program that they're suggesting, I really feel like there's majority support for.
Right.
There are just a few things in there that different groups in the whole group were interested in adding on to say, well, if we could capture this much to do this, but we could still afford to do these things, let's propose it. Let's make it the whole district perspective. What do we need district-wide to settle all of the issues in all the different areas of our programs? So yeah, there are things that are more popular and things that are less popular. At least they were when in the summer when that survey was done. So
Right. And could that have had some impact from COVID and the economy? Of course it could have. But there was definitely some more work to be done to see if we were going to have community support for the entire package. There were the core things that were well received. It was the add-ons that seemed to be a problem.
one of the other things that is on our study session topic agenda is the energy systems group proposal. And the reason I'm kind of shifting gears to that right now is there are things within the potential bond project that could be done this other particular way. So I was going to ask, Kevin, are you the facilities committee chair?
I am indeed.
So just give a quick overview of what we heard from the group that we talked to last week and how that might impact some of the decisions the board will make on facilities.
All right. The Cliffs Notes, the really short Cliffs Notes version is they are is it performance contractor, Rick? I believe
Performance
that's the term
bonds,
they
yes.
use. Yeah. So what they do is they look at our district and they do an in-depth study of it, of our energy usage, of our buildings, and they find areas where we're out of date, where we're inefficient. And they guarantee that when they get done, we're going to do the improvements we were going to do anyway eventually. but we get them all done, but they're paid for by the money we save doing the improvements. And they actually guarantee that we're going to save whatever money they say we're going to save. Now that's the Cliffs Notes version. I believe in the board packet, in fact, I'm positive, there is a much longer version of it that breaks it down with some examples of, in fact, let me look here. I don't want to go through and have to share the whole thing here, but in here, they'd have the examples of where we could save money, how it works from a legal standpoint in the state of Michigan, and it explains it much better than I ever could or should try to. But in a nutshell, we have areas that our buildings are out of date on. They're inefficient. We have things we're going to replace. Whether or not we replace them now or later, they're going to be replaced. So they brought this this presentation to us so we could look at it and see what they have to say. Now, when you talk about replacing things like boilers and roofs and things like that, that is something that we need to hear from probably our facilities director a little bit more on.
Mhm.
And when it comes to the money saved, we probably want to hear a little bit more from Kelly on that to see how the finances work out. But if everyone has read that PDF you had from the presentation, it does a pretty good job of showing us what they have for us or what they can provide.
Right, and one of the things that I took away from that that really helped me understand better what they're trying to do is the square footage cost. When we talked at the end of their proposal about just the square footage energy costs for the current high school and campus building, it was around $1.70 a square foot, and they're proposing getting us down to around $1.10 a square foot energy cost annually. So significant savings right there. And what a performance bond is basically is that a district borrows maybe a couple of $1 million, implements these changes to become more efficient, and then over 10 or 15 years, you pay back that loan with the savings that are generated from the efficiencies. And the reason that it sort of connects with this Building Futures Committee is that there could be infrastructure needs that could be addressed through the performance bond, paid for through savings to the general fund over time, that either the savings could then be returned to the community in terms of fewer, the number of mills in a proposal from the committee, or more projects, getting more things accomplished at the same time at no cost. So those are the future decisions that have to be made. But I think the fact that the board is interested in looking at all those things just demonstrates your financial responsibility. And I think that it's important that the board consider all those potential options.
Is there a timeline on the one you're talking about, Rick?
The performance bond, I mean, they have their timeline because, they want to start things. So they would like us to move quickly, but we don't have to do things. The board can continue to study and ask questions and try to solve problems. They would ideally like to be 2 or 3 meetings away from an agreement. But we're not, the district has no reason to move quickly. There's no advantage to it for us.
Would they work together with TMP? I mean, I think it's a great idea. I don't want to, I'm concerned that we commit to doing something for a particular building and then maybe we're not utilizing that building that same way.
Exactly,
So
and that was when I mentioned the 2 buildings, what will become the middle school and what is the high school. We were clear with them that we're considering some bond projects that may not utilize every one of our properties, but we're very confident that those two properties would be here
Okay.
in, as a part of that. So I think the group was more specific to those two properties to definitely consider, and then maybe consider the other places as well. And that's dependent on you know, how things go with the Futures Committee and what their proposal entails. But yes, this group would have to consider where we might be going with future projects and a bond.
In the PDF that,
Actually,
the
you're
PDF
right.
that came your way, it broke out the high school and the junior high school separately. They gave us both scenarios there.
Wait, I don't
John,
have it.
you had your hand up.
Yeah, I think before we dig too deep into this, we should at least reach out to TMP and get their thoughts on, you know, what effects this could possibly have on what they're trying to do. So just if we haven't done that already, I would suggest that we reach out to them and just give them a heads up of what we're doing so they can, you know, direct us in the right direction.
Right. Yes, and right now we just have a presentation to one of the board committees. And that board committee is going to make a report tonight. The board can decide if it wants to add it as a discussion item for the next meeting, and that would be another step toward decision-making. But yes, if the board decides that it wants to hear more as a discussion item, that would be the appropriate time to say, hey, TMP, consider this. If we created performance bonds to address these issues, how would that then impact what the Futures Committee had planned in their proposal? And then they would have to alter that proposal based on that information.
Right, but
This is also a process that requires that we post it for bidding. So it's not a quick, you know, we look at stuff, we make a decision. This process requires that if we decide to go down that avenue, then we're going to have to post it to get competitive bids on it before we can move forward. So it's
Right.
not a quick process.
wait a minute.
Nope.
It's also new construction, so so it's fluid. So they figured, well, they might need this amount for mechanical, or they might need, and then we'll add this much more for roofing. And so it's kind of, you can get this much money on your bond, and we think you can do this many things with it based on other projects from other schools who have done similar things. But the specifics of it don't get done till the end. So for these two things to be overlapped, and our facilities director and Rick can certainly say, hey, don't include your boilers because we got that handled, or whatever. When you get right down to exactly where every dollar goes when you go out for bids. So it's never been bid like that. We're just in the talking general, this is what a project this size talks. You know, we haven't driven down to the actual dollar and cents of everything. And that doesn't happen till way later.
Yep.
So that can all be fluid.
Okay, and we're getting near the board meeting starting time, but I just want to remind the group, the beauty of the study session is we don't have to make any decisions. This is just an opportunity for everybody to ask questions and maybe even start wondering new things that will generate more questions. So I hope you have found it to be a valuable tool to gather information and generate new ideas. I'm glad that we talked about it because there were some things that people were wondering that I didn't know people were wondering. So that's been a benefit. But I do want to, if I can, Kevin, move on because I quickly want to mention board retreat. Terry had some ideas about possibly a Saturday, like in the morning, 9 to noon or something like that, where we could spend even more time focusing on some topics. Is a Saturday board workshop a possibility? And if so, what does everybody's calendar look like?
That's
I would,
fine. but
if
That's
we
how we
can,
used to do it.
if we can do something after April 15th, I can do it. If it's before April 15th, it doesn't matter what day it is. I probably won't be able to do it.
Any day that ends in a Y is bad.
Yeah.
How about April 17th, John?
No.
You said anytime after.
All right.
Well, I don't
Anytime
think-
after a week for me to, regain consciousness.
Okay.
Well, I think we're in virtual meetings until March 30th, so it's really not much of a danger or extension to push it out a little bit later.
Okay.
So then the first opportunity based on making it all about John
As usual.
would be the 24th of April.
Oh, that's funny.
How does the 24th look? At least at this point, it seems far enough in the future where it would be safe to
Yeah.
put it as a holding place, and then if things go awry, we could reschedule. But do you want to do, let's say, an 8:30 morning start on the 24th?
Works for me.
Sounds
But that's
good.
like the first Saturday I do have open, so yeah, it works for me.
Okay, great.
I thought you were retired.
I know, and I spend my weekends not here.
What's that date again?
24th. April
4/24.
Could I ask one more thing that I do agree with John that we need our packets earlier. I mean, good Lord, if we could get them a week early, or if we could try to move out at least 5 days early, or because a lot of times I'm busy on the weekends and I don't know. I just would prefer more time. It seems like we never got them later than Thursdays.
We
That was
can
on-
try to send them out on Wednesday.
That'd be awesome.
If we could start meeting on the Monday before
Yeah,
to
just that
discuss the
first
agenda, try to get packets to you on Wednesday. Just keep in mind that sometimes things
No, I know.
change over that
Yep,
later
sure.
part of the week, and then we may
Yep.
have more amendments to agendas that way, but
Right, but still, we have the general information, a lot of it early.
Start reviewing.
And I was gonna ask Terry if she'd be kind enough to do a calendar for us with all the board meetings, and then once the policy stuff all gets, ironed out, all the policy meetings show on there too. Like a
Yeah.
calendar, like a yearly calendar showing when we have our board meetings and
Yep.
when all the policy meetings
I
are.
think she means committee meetings, not
Committee,
just
yeah.
I
policy.
mean, no, yeah, committee.
and we're trying to get that established so that they're clear that they're on a particular day of the month. And we'll get them on the calendar. And then if we can cancel because there's no business, then we'll do that.
Right,
Right,
okay.
well- Kevin, we need to go, huh?
Okay, well,
Yeah,
again, thank
we
you for
we can go when we
attending.
finish up here. Hold on.
Thanks for
Yes,
attending.
we can.
Tony, I know you
Okay.
missed some of the conversation, but again, thanks for everybody coming in for the study session. Mr. Johnson.
All right, give me just a second here. I've got somebody in the waiting room and I'm trying to figure out who they are. Okay, I can figure that out as we move forward here. All right, does anybody need a quick break before we start the meeting?
Do.
You do? Okay, we'll take a quick break. We'll wait for you, Greg.
All right.
Linda, Linda and Sophie and Caitlin, thanks so much for jumping in. I know joining another Zoom meeting is not anybody's particularly fun activity, but you've all made accomplishments that we wanted board members to be able to specifically congratulate you on. So we'll do that right at the first part of the agenda after the Pledge of Allegiance, and then you'll be able to go about your business. And it shouldn't take long. So bear with us, be just a few more minutes. Thank you.
Hey, John, are you missing anybody? Were you expecting anybody else?
Me, John, or John Benzing?
Oh, sorry. Yes. You, John, in the left corner. You've got
No,
everybody
sir.
here?
Yes, sir. Yep, we're all good.
Okay. Okay. Looks like Greg is back. Then with that, the time is now 7:04. We'll call to order the February 22nd meeting of the Tecumseh Schools Board of Education. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Miss Becky Brooks.
Caught me off guard there. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Becky. First up tonight, we have good news, recognition of THS student athletes.
Yes, John Zajac is here. He's got two speaking parts this evening. But first, we wanted him to feature three young Tecumseh athletes who were honored for their achievements this season, and they are our good news tonight. John.
Yeah, we love doing this. Love highlighting our kids. We'll start with the youngest one first. Linda Hensley is a junior. She's a swimmer. She placed third in the state in a 200 individual medley, placed sixth in the state in 100 freestyle. She was all state and first team all SEC. And, she had a pretty rough year because they had a lot of time off before state finals, right, Linda? We had 5 kids actually qualify for the states, and Linda was the only one that wanted to swim in it. It was pretty tough for the kids because they had to stop swimming. I believe it was a week and a half or 2 weeks where they couldn't swim. So even with that time off, Linda placed third and sixth, which is amazing, outstanding, and she's a junior. So hopefully look forward to her doing the same thing and maybe not improving on that next year. So that was Linda. Linda, why don't you wave?
Thank you.
Thanks, Linda.
Congratulations.
Thanks,
Great
Linda.
job.
Next, we have Caitlin Knapp. Caitlin's a senior. She's a cross-country runner. She placed 15th in the states this year. She was academic all-state, all SEC, counter run of the year. Caitlin, was that 4 times in a row or 3 times in a row you were counting run of the year?
That's 3 times.
3 times run of the year, yep. And then Caitlin's continuing to run at Iowa. So she'll be running at Iowa, be a Hawkeye next year. So Caitlin's a great kid, and looking forward to see what she does in college. Congrats, Caitlin.
Thank you.
And next we have Sophie Whelan. Sophie's a senior. Sophie's a golfer for us. Sophie was all SEC. She was all county. She was a state qualifier. She's planning to attend Western Michigan University and hopes to golf in their golf team. So Sophie's a great kid, known her for a long time, and just happy to see her on here. And she's in my office, I think.
Good job,
Yes,
Sophie.
I am. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank
Great
you.
job, all of you.
All 3 of you. Congratulations.
Congratulations, ladies.
Yep, and we had
Congratulations.
numerous, outstanding fall athletes individually, but these 3 rose above not only just their conference level, but at the state level, and performed extremely well for Tecumseh and for themselves. So congratulations, ladies, And thank you for joining our meeting.
I'd like to say congratulations too. And I did graduate from high school with a very nice little girl. It was a good friend of mine named Linda Hensley.
That's funny.
That is.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Public comment. We did not have anybody register for public comment on agenda items, which will bring us to revisions or approval of the agenda. Does anyone have any revisions for the agenda? Otherwise, could I get a motion to approve the agenda as written?
So moved.
Support.
Roll call vote. Suzanne?
I,
Tony?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Becky?
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Agenda is approved as written. First item on our agenda, scheduled reports. Report of the board study session. That was me. I've got to manage some people in the waiting room here. Rick, could you please give that report for me?
Sure. For anyone who joined the meeting at 7 o'clock, at 6 o'clock, the board signed on and we had discussion items to try to drill down into detail for some information. In particular, we talked about the process and role of the Building Futures Committee, which spent a good portion of 2020 talking about the district facility needs and will be coming back to the board in May of 2021 with a proposal. So we had a long conversation about how that committee came to some of its conclusions and what will happen next. We talked about an energy management group proposal that is one of the reports that the facilities committee will be making. And we set a date for the Board of Education retreat, which we set for the third Saturday in April.
All right. Thank you very much for taking care of that. Next scheduled report was the board facilities and ground meeting. That one is me. We had a short meeting. It was a presentation from a performance contracting group who has some ideas for us to save some money, get some repairs and upgrades done. The board discussed that a little bit during the study session, and we're going to discuss it a little bit more at a future date. We also had a very brief discussion about the reorganization plans for this fall. And it sounds like everything's pretty much in order for that. At least I don't think we'll have any problems. It should be easily handled.
As far as the physical move goes, we feel pretty good about it. We need some sessions to, figure out the student split, especially for the 3-4 buildings. And we have those meetings planned, but the physical move, I think, I'm pretty confident we'll have it taken care of nicely.
Thank you, Rick. Last scheduled report for tonight, athletic department update for the fall season. Mr. John Zajac is here. John?
Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, so I sent you guys a spreadsheet or a slideshow about what each team did in the fall. Hopefully you guys got that. It kind of it kind of gives a summary of each sport, their season, where they finished in the league, any recognition student athletes have. I also sent you a 2020 fall Tecumseh student athlete recognition form with all of our kids that received honors in every sport. So hopefully you guys have that. And I'll just give you a quick update on what we did in the fall. Total number of kids we have participating in the fall, we had in the high school 155, middle school we had 95 kids. In high school, we have 11 sports that we offer in the fall. In the middle school, we have 5. That's 6th through 8th grade that we offer in the middle school for some sports. Something I'm pretty proud of, our fall student athlete GPA is a 3.33. Our fall Tecumseh student GPA, not athlete, was 2.64. So, our kids that are in athletics are doing a little better than our kids that are not in athletics or any other activity. So pretty proud of that, to have kids average a 3.33. We've hosted many MHSA tournaments this year. In the fall, we hosted the girls volleyball quarterfinal. We hosted a semifinal football game. In the winter, we're going to host the girls district basketball, boys regional basketball, boys quarterfinal basketball, and hopefully the team wrestling districts. In the spring, we're hosting softball districts and girls soccer districts. So it's pretty awesome to be able to showcase our facilities and have our kids be on a grand stage at home, in those tournaments. In October, last October, the Tecumseh Athletic Department was ranked by MLive in an article, the top 100 schools for athletics. We were ranked the 18th best athletic program in the state. I think you guys did know that. I think Rick put something out about that. Last year, we were 22nd. So we moved up 4 spots to 18th. Doing a little research, there's 1,701 public schools in Michigan. 1,701 public schools in Michigan, and we were ranked 22nd. So very, very happy, impressed with that accomplishment. I think it speaks volumes about our program's vision, culture, and dedication, our student athletes, by our coaches, teachers, parents, and community. We have a lot of support here. Our coaches do a great job. Teachers are great supporting the kids, helping the kids out. So we do have a lot of support. Without that support, we wouldn't be able to be ranked 18th where we are. Like I said, I'm very, very proud of it. To show how tough our conference is, there were 3 SEC teams in the top 20. I think Saline was number 2, and I think Chelsea was maybe 10th or 9th. So, to be with those teams is a pretty good accomplishment. The Tecumseh Athletic Department is viewed as one of the top programs in the state by many school administrators, athletic directors, coaches, and parents of other schools and districts. It's a point of pride for our district and community. Our district's had to deal with a lot of controversy and discord the past couple of years. Athletics will always be one of the hot topics conversation, typically number 1 in complaints from parents. Trust me, I get a lot of complaints about things and do my best to kind of put those out. Sometimes you can help it, sometimes you can't. There's some people that you're never going to please, and unfortunately that's prevalent. I just hope that all the board members take into consideration the whole and not the few. As I often told you guys in my reports and just in conversations, my door is always open to you. If you have any questions, please feel free to come talk to me. I'll tell you the truth. I'm an honest guy. If I'm doing a bad job, I'll tell you. If I messed up, I'll tell you. I wish I would talk to you guys more on a one-on-one basis so you guys could get my side of the story sometimes and just understand who I am and what I'm trying to do. I do have candy in my office, so if you like candy or suckers or mints, I have it all anytime. Like I said, it's always open, and that's all I got. You guys have any questions for me?
Yeah, John, well, first, congratulations on all your accomplishments, your group's accomplishments in the fall. I think the thing that I want to make most impressive to me in the presentation you gave was when you went to the SEC enrollment. I mean, Tecumseh and all SEC is last. I mean, that just, my children played athletics or participated in athletics. So I think that's really, for us to be ranked 18th with 719 students, and even in our division, Jackson has almost 1,200. That's really impressive. And I don't know if everyone on the board saw that, but I think that's pretty impressive when we start getting SEC honors and that. And it certainly makes it tough to compete. We understand that, and hopefully, I'm sure we're all striving to do better. But thanks for all your efforts.
Thank you. Yeah, it's tough. Being a school of 719 kids, it doesn't just happen by kids showing up. A lot of those bigger schools, they have kids that just specialize in 1 or 2 sports, and we don't. We have kids that are multi-sport athletes. They play 3 sports. Some even play 4. Some even play 2 sports in the same season. In the fall season, they can play, football or soccer or cross country and football. And I think it creates a well-balanced kid and a well-balanced adult. So I love being at a school this size. I was at a school bigger than this, and it's just something to say about a smaller school. So thanks. I appreciate that, Tom.
Hey, Rick, so obviously Ader is the biggest in the county and Tecumseh second. Do you know what the next biggest school in the county is and what their size is?
I believe it's Onstead.
I believe that it would be Onstead, but they're far below us. They can't be more than maybe 450.
Oh, really? So it's a big gap.
Is Adrian the biggest? We were the biggest last I knew.
Well, this says 759.
They just edged us out this year.
It's been pretty close the last couple of years.
All right, John, thank you very much.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
All right, that's going to move us on to our discussion items. First item on the discussion items is a presentation on third grade reading law. I'm guessing Jamie Fulton and Brittany, you are here.
They are our resident experts on third grade reading law. I wouldn't attempt this on my own. Need to have this thing surrounded. So ladies, it's all yours.
Thank
Hi.
you. Hello, everybody. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Talking to you.
Good.
Good to see you.
Yes, you too. You too. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. Brittany, I'll let you start with the first slide.
All right. Let me, am I able to share the presentation? Hopefully.
Yep.
Awesome. I'm going to just leave it like that so that I don't lose things on my computer. So I'll go ahead and get started with our first slide. Just what is the read by grade 3 law? And in 2016, the Michigan legislature passed a law that requires all third grade students who are more than 1 year behind on their grade level in reading are subject to retention and additional supports to improve their reading level. The law is in full effect this year. It was supposed to go into effect last year, but with COVID, it was pushed to this year. So it is in full effect right now for this year. There's a waiver that's been submitted, but it hasn't been approved. So we're just going on the assumption that it is going to be enforced this year. The law states that students will be subject to retention, but it does not say that they have to be retained. There's a whole process that they go through involving their whole team here at the school. And then the superintendent will make the final decision on that for each of the students that are subject to that retention. And then the parents are a key part in improving their reading scores. So we provide all of the parents of those kids that we've identified with a read at home plan every year with ways that they can support their reading. In the fall, we have to give all students in young 5s through 3rd grade an approved initial assessment within the first 30 days of school. Then that gives us an idea of which kids might be struggling with reading at that point, and then we can give them other assessments and start off with supports for them. And TPS this year is using Edmentum for our initial assessment and Fontes and Pinnell for the extensive assessment in 1st through 3rd grade. Dibbles is the initial assessment for kindergarten, just because doing Edmentum on the computer with kindergartners isn't a good idea. And then we use Fontes and Pinnell as that extensive for kindergarten as well. And those tests are given to the kids 3 times each year. We do it in the fall, winter, and spring. And if a student shows a deficiency on those assessments, the school can give them that extensive assessment. And then after that, if they're still showing that they need help, we have 30 days to complete an IRIP and inform their parents. That goes into the next one. What is an IRIP? It's an individualized reading improvement plan. So each student that shows a deficit somewhere for reading gets their own plan. It's given to any student, young 5s through 3rd grade, that shows a reading deficiency, and those can be given anytime throughout the school year. It's created by a team. During a meeting, we have IRIP meetings with the teachers, reading specialists, district literacy coach, special education teachers as needed, and administrators. And the team sits down and looks at each of those students and comes up with a plan for them. The purpose is to discover which interventions that we're going to do with each of those kids, get that written down in the plan, who's responsible for what. And then we progress monitor that and check in every 6 to 8 weeks to see how the kids are doing on their goals, if they need a new goal, or if we need to do something different to help them. They can be exited from their IRIPs throughout the school year. So if they're making excellent progress, they get up to grade level, then we just exit them and they no longer need to have that IRIP. And all of the things that are in their reading plan are in addition to their classroom ELA instruction. So they still get everything that everybody else in their grade is getting for reading, plus extra on top. And I think it's important to point out about this law that it was put into effect a couple of years ago, but Tecumseh has been doing all of these things for years anyways. So it's more for other districts that weren't supporting they're struggling readers, but we've had our reading specialist program here for years and years. So we've been doing all of this. Now it just has a new name and new forms. For the M-STEP in the spring this year, all the 3rd grade students are going to take the M-STEP. If they score a 1252, that's just the cut score, or below, then they're going to be flagged for retention. It's important to note that does include kids that are on an IEP or have a 504. They're not exempt from it simply for those reasons. And after that, then the state will send the scores to CEPI, and that CEPI stands for Center for Educational Performance and Information. So they send them to those, and then CEPI is the agency that collects all those scores, and they'll send out a letter to parents by certified mail notifying them that their child was flagged for retention.
So before we start M-STEP, we are going to send a letter out just to let 3rd grade families know the information about M-STEP, the law, and the exemption process. They'll have that all before April, before the M-STEP starts. Then once the students take the M-STEP, we are going to monitor that. We get the scores within 24 to 48 hours. So we will be monitoring that and seeing who falls below that cut score. Once we have all of the students that fall below that cut score, we will send a letter out to parents explaining the process, what a good cause exemption is, and how to apply for that good cause exemption. So they will have all of the information from our district before the state sends them anything. We will also notify the 3rd grade families of the placement at least 30 days prior to the start of the school year. So the next slide is a good cause exemption. A good cause exemption can be an IEP or a 504. It can be previous retention from a reading intervention, if the student already went to Young Fives, if the student's been in the district less than 2 years without an IRIP. So there's different things. There's more that goes into that as well. So when a parent fills out the good cause exemption, it is sent directly to me. And then Rick and I will look over all of the good cause exemptions from the parents. We will look over the good cause exemptions and all the documentation from the 3rd grade teacher. We will meet with the 3rd grade teacher, the IEP team, and then again, that final decision is Rick's decision, whether the student will be retained or if they will go on to 4th grade. If a student is retained, again, I want to reiterate what Brittany was saying. We are already doing all of this. So if a student is retained in 3rd grade, we already have a reading specialist in place for 3rd and 4th grade. We already have evidence-based reading programs. We already do small group instruction, one-on-one reading intervention. We have tier 1 in the classroom, tier 2 in the reading specialist room, tier 3 again, maybe in the reading specialist room. It could be in a resource room. And all of this is above and beyond what they already get during their regular ELA time. So if a student is retained, we're going to do what we have been doing already in 3rd grade. The next slide shows if a student is promoted to 4th grade, it's the exact same thing. It's already what we're doing. They will have a reading specialist. They will have evidence-based programs. They will have small group instruction, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 if needed. And all of this, again, will be outside of their regular ELA time. We just went over a brief introduction of all of this, but we do have the Read by 3rd Grade Law on our TPS website. You can go there. They have videos, lots of information for parents, for anybody that wants to learn about it. I am always available. If you'd like to meet with me, please let me know. I am happy to sit down and go all over everything that goes on with the 3rd grade reading law.
Jamie, does the parent information on our website have a Cliff's Notes version like what you just presented us? Is that included in there also?
So there's a page that has just for parents, and I have an example of it, and it's a 1-page, and it's just like Cliff Notes.
I can pull that up real quick too. Victor and I just went through and updated that. So It's on the parents page, and if they scroll down, it's got Michigan's Read by Grade 3, and it just has a few paragraphs explaining the law. And then he put a couple bullet points in there, facts for families, and that takes you right to something from the state of Michigan. That's a 2-page fact sheet. It's also got facts about the good cause exemption process for parents. And then more information for them about the Read by Grade 3 law, because MDE has put out a lot of information on their site. And then we also put a link to our Read at Home plan that Tecumseh sends to all of the kids. And then Victor put 2 of the videos for parents, and they have the full video, which I think is fun to call it full because it's only 2 minutes. And then the short video, I think, is around 30 seconds. So it does have a very shortened version for parents to be able to get that information.
Great job. Thank you.
So I have a question, or a couple questions, as always. How many students do we have on an IREP right now?
We'd have to get back to you on that, but I think for 3rd grade, we've got about 60.
60?
Compared to previous years. Do we have more? I guess I'm asking if we, because of our dilemma we've been in for the last year, are we seeing more children at risk than we were a year ago?
We aren't this year with our data for Title I and the students that we're servicing. It's pretty close to where it was. And we've seen a lot of kids that we worked with just from this first round of our interventions that were a little bit below at the beginning of the year, have made progress and are right back up to grade level. So that 60 that we have on IREPS right now for 3rd grade is pretty close to what we had last year and the year before that too.
Okay.
And sorry, Rick, do you know how many students we have in the 3rd grade?
Full enrollment in the 3rd grade, I don't know. Jamie, are you aware of that number?
Yes, it's around 210, 220, right around in there.
And last question, how do we compare to other schools? Are those statistics available in the state? Do you know?
They're not available right now, and we work very closely with the LISD. Brittany goes to literacy meetings monthly, and she works very closely with them at the meetings. And so when we were going through all the 3rd grade reading law, we've been doing it for years. At the meeting, we go through letters together, we talk about it, with the IREPs, we make sure that they're all together that we're all using the same thing.
Thank you.
And the
Thank you
3rd
very
grade
much.
reading law, the law itself is a little older than implementation. Last year was supposed to be the first year of full compliance, and that was COVID interrupted. And I guess there's a chance that the full implementation could be interrupted again this spring. The legislature could say hold off on implementing those decisions. But we're prepared. Like I said, Brittany and I didn't mention when she started, Brittany is a reading specialist at Compass. And clearly from this presentation, you can see a pretty well-prepared reading specialist. And Jamie, of course, our 3-4 principal, was formerly a reading specialist at Compass. So a lot of expertise and knowledge and preparation between these two. Feel very confident that whatever our numbers are, that we've got good plans on dealing with it.
Thank you.
Thank you
very
so much for having us.
Thank you. Have a great night.
You too.
Thank you, ladies. Oh, there they go.
All right, that'll bring us to our discussion of the extended continuity of learning plan with two-way communication reporting. Rick?
Okay, that information was in your packet again for the month. The only change that I'm recommending in the plan is just another step down in how we're approaching quarantine. We started the year with a full 14-day quarantine for exposure to positives. We changed before the holidays to the new recommendation based on CDC guidelines and the health department that were 10 days of quarantine followed by 4 days of monitoring symptoms. And those 4 days of monitoring symptoms were at that time to be away from school. We've not seen through our own statistics or through the health department that the extra 4 days of monitoring symptoms have created positive cases. So now we're recommending the next step, which is available in the recommendations of the CDC, which is a 10-day quarantine, 4 days of monitoring symptoms, but those can take place at school. So that's the only change that I'm recommending. Had a quick conversation with members of the policy committee before coming to that conclusion, and some good discussion with those individuals. But I'm confident, just based on our own experience and statistics in going through this for the last year, that we're not putting things in danger by allowing those last 4 days of monitoring symptoms to happen at school. It's all in an effort to get kids back to learning as quick as possible.
Rick, are there any other ways we can keep push? I mean, I know you said, okay, there was a few schools already doing this. Is there anything more we could be doing to push our way back more towards normal? Because, we're not seeing good success here in Lenawee County, and it's safe for us to do so.
The next step down in the possibilities recommended by the CDC is a 7-day quarantine with a negative test after day 5. The PCR test is still taking about 72 hours to come back. So there isn't a lot of advantage of stepping down to that right now. If we get to the point where those PCRs are coming back in 24 hours, then maybe we'll make that recommendation. But right now, I think the 10-day away from school quarantine is both safe and advantageous for our kids to be able to get back to school.
And I kind of meant that more of an overall statement, like with the mask mandates and the social distancing. And I mean, I would just hope that we're moving towards what science does and what we've been proven to loosen things to get back to, as close to normal as whatever we possibly can.
And my statement on that, just as Rick Hilderly, Earthling, not superintendent, is get vaccinated. Everybody gets vaccinated. We have the best chance to return to normal more quickly. So that's how I feel about it.
Rick, the 10-day quarantine, that's 10 calendar days, not 10 school days, right?
10 calendar days from the date of first symptoms. So depending on how the weekends fall, it still might be 11, 12 days. But it's 10 calendar days.
All right. I saw our communication reporting was still up there, 99% or so, wasn't it?
Yeah, we're still getting pretty good response rates. We have a few individuals in the TVA that are very difficult to communicate with. But it isn't hurting our response rates district-wide. So we keep working at it, but that's where the trouble tends to be.
And what about
right.
staff vaccination? Have they all been able to get a dose if they want one, or?
I looked at the document today. We're around 60% of our staff have received at least one dose, and we're getting close to half of that with second dose. We've got 40 people coming up on Thursday get their second dose, and we're closed for face-to-face instruction on Friday as a result. Once we have that, then we're going to be over 50% of the staff will be in with 2 doses. So we're getting there. The process is difficult. It's really, you got to be refreshing your computer on a regular basis to get a hold of one of those reservations, but we're getting there. We're inching towards it, and hopefully by around spring break, our whole staff that wants a vaccine will have one.
Okay, good.
Thank you. Next item on discussion is recognition by board of Tecumseh Administrators Association. Rick?
Okay, what you have in your packet is a legal document that allows the board to officially recognize the TAA. And that was a part of the organization that was dismantled a few years ago. The group of administrators now currently are interested in reorganizing. This is not agreeing to a contract or anything. This is just the first step that has to happen before anything else can go on with negotiations. So the document that you have is the legal recognition of the board for the TAA. And it'll come up again. Is it coming up tonight? Okay, so it'll come up again next meeting as an action item. So you'll have time to read through it and consider it and ask any questions.
Can we get a legal opinion on it?
Well, it was written by Troon, and the lawyer for the TAA who represents that group, his name's Gordon Gregory. He's worked in the state of Michigan for administrative groups for, I remember hearing his name back when I was a teacher 25 years ago. So he's been around a long time. I gave permission for that group to communicate with Lisa Swem from Troon, who wrote the original TAA agreement. And this is the document that was provided by Lisa from those discussions.
But that's just the document. I mean, should we at least talk to them and say, what's the pros and cons of doing this or not doing this?
This is their recommendation. So, if you want to take it further before, maybe have a discussion before taking action next meeting, we can certainly set that up.
This is just saying that they're becoming an organization, right?
Correct.
We're recognizing
them so that we could then enter in to either contract negotiations or an employee manual of some sort. But before any of that can happen, the group has to be recognized by the school board as an association. And this document establishes that relationship.
John?
We already went through this with Lisa Swam on a Zoom call several meetings back, and I would not be in favor of spending any more money on legal fees to have this document revised or reviewed for 100th time. So I'm just putting in my opinion. I don't think we need to have this reviewed again. It's been reviewed multiple times by multiple sources, and it would be a waste of money to do it again.
Well, I think the document we're talking about tonight is just the resolution to recognize them. Now, when we get to the actual contract, we're all going to be able to sit down and read the contract, come up with any questions, and then those questions, if there is enough questions, confusion about it, it might warrant a one-on-one, But if there's questions,
Potentially.
we could probably put those questions forth and get a opinion letter. And then we can just discuss them in closed session with the opinion letter and avoid having to pay the personal appearance fees, which I think is what you're talking about here, really.
Yes, yes.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
because
I
this
think we need-
document, the document that we're talking about tonight has already been reviewed and written by our own lawyers.
It has. And again,
this-
this is discussion on that document, not decision making. So, you know, if there are issues that you want to have worked out, we can do it before the next meeting. It doesn't necessarily have to include a face-to-face meeting, but it can.
And the document tonight is just the resolution recognizing that they have assembled as an association or a group, not the
Right.
contract with them.
Certain hurdles that they had to cross, they had to each sign the waiver document that I think is attached in your packet as well. So these are just the legal steps that have to take place before the board can create any kind of an agreement with the association. They have to recognize it first. That's what this establishes.
Tim, did you have questions about the resolution recognizing them or about the contract that comes later?
No, it was more or less labor law, because I'm not sure under labor law, if you recognize them, then you must negotiate with them. And I know, Rick and I had a conversation between the two of us, and I know Lisa Schwinn said she wasn't in favor of doing this kind of thing. So I thought maybe we ought to get more of a legal opinion on labor law here, because I don't know. I'm not a labor law person. And I don't know if we recognize them, that means we have to negotiate or we don't, or I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, so I just,
And what Lisa told us was that Troon is typically more interested in establishing groups that have guidelines instead of contracts. But she has told me that this step, this recognition allows for whatever the board decides they want to do, whether it's a contract or an employee handbook, however it gets addressed.
okay.
Now, absolutely, any questions we have about the resolution itself, yes, let's forward those on to Troon and get the answers. And if there's still questions about the answers, then we're going to have to end up with a one-on-one and an appearance. But let's go with the email, the questions, put them forth through Rick, have him assemble them and put them onto the attorney's office. And let's get those first, take it step by step. And that brings, oh, I'm sorry, was there anybody else? No. All right. That'll bring us on to Lenawee County Election Coordinating Agreement. Mr. Hilderly.
Okay, again, you have a document in your packet that shows my signature, and I attended a meeting virtually where the Lenawee County Clerk went through each of the election agreements for each of the districts and had to be ratified. I can admittedly say that I understood very little of it, but I know that it was something that the district had to have representation for, and our agreement was ratified. So it's something that now has to be discussed and then will come to the board for action later on in the meeting.
All right, comments or questions?
The county and township clerks do, most of the school elections, and this is just establishing that agreement.
So this is an agreement that allows them to run those elections?
Yes. Mr. Lewis lives with one of them.
He's a rookie, though.
She was as new to the process as I was this time.
Is this done every year?
I think that it's a 3-year agreement. Yeah.
So, I mean, I know that like when we ran for school board, we had to go to Raisin Township, but that's changed. Is this part of that agreement?
Actually, that will be changing. You will go to Tecumseh now. They're gonna take over the school handling of the
Right.
school.
So is that in here? Is that what this is? That type of stuff?
Yes. This establishes the new parameters.
Okay.
All right, next on the list, resolution for refunding bonds. There's Kelly.
Hello again, board. In your packet is the legal documents for the bond refunding. Obviously, I'll answer any questions that you have. The only thing I do want to add, we actually had during the bid process for the bonds, we actually had 5 respondents, and the interest rates varied anywhere from the 5.4, which is what we're recommending this evening, to 1.57. But I was real pleased with the number of responses, and obviously very pleased with the ending rate that the district is going to receive.
So are these the bonds that we'll be voting to renew in the future?
So this is a refunding of a portion of our existing bonds that the district currently has. What it'll do, it will save the district, knock off 1 year of debt obligation and payments, and save the district approximately a little over $500,000, which is ultimately savings to taxpayers.
Right, that's the clear distinction, is that it doesn't have an impact on our budget. It does have an impact on the amount that citizens will pay in taxes. A small amount, it's $550,000 split by the electorate.
But yes, that's the bond money. That's what
So
we
when
borrowed.
do these actually expire? When do these bonds actually expire? Is it in here?
Yeah, so if the board did not pass the refunding this evening, these bonds would expire, the last payment would expire in 2030. After the refunding this evening, it would expire or mature in 2039, or excuse me, 29.
So 1 year early.
1
Right.
year earlier.
That's like refinancing at a lower interest rate.
Yes.
So you get it paid off earlier.
Correct.
Got it.
All right, any other questions or comment? All right, thank you, Kelly. That'll move us on to our action items for the night. Becky, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Take it away.
I hereby move to approve the 2021 through 2022 School of Choice policy documents and forms as presented, outlining the dates and procedures for the School of Choice application for TPS.
Support.
Thank you, Suzanne. Roll call vote. Suzanne,
Aye.
Tony,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Becky,
Aye.
Greg.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Documents approved. Next.
I hereby move to approve the continuity of the district's extended continuity of learning plan for the month of February 2021 as presented, which was originally approved by the Board of Education in September 2020, and further acknowledge the district's pupil count process, which provides for two-way communication with students. The board also directs administration to post and submit said plan as required by MDE.
Support.
Thank you. Roll call vote. Suzanne,
Aye.
Tony,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Becky,
Aye.
Greg.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Plan is approved.
I hereby move to approve the 2021 superintendent goals for Superintendent Hilderly as stated.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call vote. Suzanne,
Aye.
Tony,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Becky,
Aye.
Greg.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Goals are approved.
I hereby move to set April 24th at 8:30 a.m. as the date and time for a special meeting of the Board of Education with the purpose of the meeting as follows: a board retreat.
Support.
Roll call vote. Suzanne,
Aye, if it comes with donuts.
From Levs.
I thought that's what
Tony.
meeting meant.
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Becky,
Aye.
Greg.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. It's a date. Next.
I hereby move to approve the Lenawee County Election Coordinating Agreement between TPS and Lenawee County Clerk for the period of 2021 through 2024 with terms, conditions, and responsibilities as outlined in said agreement.
Support.
Roll call vote. Suzanne,
Aye.
Tony,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Becky,
Aye.
Greg.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Agreement approved. Lastly,
I hereby move to approve the ratifying resolution regarding the $2,225,000 2021 refunding bonds as prepared by legal counsel on the district's behalf, and further authorize administration to proceed with submitting and filing the required documents for this transaction.
Support.
roll call. Suzanne,
Aye.
Tony,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Becky,
Aye.
Greg.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Resolution is approved. This will bring us to our consent agenda. Ms. Brooks,
I hereby move to approve the consent agenda, which includes the following items: minutes from the regular board meeting of February 8th, 2021.
Support.
Tony got you on that one, Suzanne.
That's fine.
I'll give you the first vote. Roll call vote. Suzanne,
Aye.
Tony,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Becky,
Aye.
Greg.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Consent agenda is approved. Next up is the superintendent's report. Rick?
Just a couple of things on my report. We want to establish a date, at least for the foreseeable future, for two of our board committees, facilities and grounds and budget. Facilities and grounds will meet on the third Wednesday of the month at 5 p.m. Certainly through the next several months as we reorganize and get those things taken care of, as we look at the potential of either a bond project or a performance bond or both. Just want to keep that committee on a regular meeting basis. If there's no new business, we'll cancel, but those meeting times will be established monthly. And budget, the same thing. The items that I just mentioned, involve budget input, but also our, we have the school general fund budget that we don't know exactly when or how that'll all come together. And then we also have the ESSER funds that we need to start to allocate and plan projects with. So just want to get those two committees. We've been doing those sort of committee meetings as needed, but now we're going to establish them on a regular rotating monthly basis so that the place is held. And again, if we don't need to meet, we will not. So budget committee meetings will be on the first Wednesday of the month at 5:45.
Right,
That's
can
it
I
for
ask
me.
a question on that?
Uh-huh.
So I just want to ask John, so the budget committee meeting, it's got two set up for March. Is that gonna, are you gonna be able to do that?
Yeah, I can make it work.
Okay, that's all.
Becky,
I
I
figured
am
with-
I am in Florida next week. So I don't know. I mean, that's next Wednesday. So I haven't been told by my real boss what I'm doing on March 3rd at 5:45, but
Well, if
I
she
won't be
sees
here. I
fit
won't
to
be in
let
town.
you,
I know that for sure.
if she sees fit to let you join, we'll be here. If not, we understand.
Okay.
Come on and stop in, Tony, and we'll get the Zoom app attached to your phone, and then you'll be able to, wherever you are in the
Wherever you
world,
are.
join us.
Yeah, I have Zoom, I think, on my phone already. So
Awesome.
yeah, I'm pretty sure I do. But I'll double check that. Are they going to be by Zoom? The budget committee meetings by Zoom?
For now, the meetings will be remote. When we can move to in-person meetings, we'll do that.
All right.
But it's a nice tool for maybe a member who can't be on site for a meeting to join.
Yeah, I have Zoom. So
Yeah, I was in Florida at the last board meeting, so.
right.
Yes, we remember.
Whatever.
I
What?
think you, yeah.
It was nice.
We've heard that. Thanks, Tim.
Yeah.
I saw the beach feet.
Okay.
All right, I'm sorry, did I talk over someone there? Okay. That'll bring us on items scheduled for next agenda. We'll have good news, which is the Tecumseh High School 100 years of NCA accreditation. Discussion items will include the monthly finance report, the policy committee meeting for the 8 and 9,000 series policies, curriculum committee meeting. Action items will include resolution by the board to recognize the TAA. That moves us on to our regular meeting closing. We did not have anyone contact us for public comment on open items. Board member comments and discussion. Any board member comment or discussion? All right. We do have a closed session tonight pursuant to 267 of 1972 to consider material exempt from discussion or disclosure by state or federal statute, attorney-client privilege information. Could I get a motion to adjourn to closed session, please?
I'll
So
make a
moved.
motion. Go ahead.
We'll give support to Greg. Becky will get the motion. Roll call vote. Suzanne?
Sorry, I.
Thank you. Tony?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Becky?
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Let the record show we are going into closed session at 8:02 p.m. Let me get the breakout room up here. Breakout rooms. John, did you get the invite to the breakout room? All right. All right, everybody is back. Then we are back at, sorry, 9:12. We are back to open. Could I get a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night. Aye and bye.
Aye
We'll
and
see you
bye.
again.